The FNaF multiverse is a thing. It's confirmed with the fazbear fanverse initiative, which makes me think, if FNaF Plus is going to be in a separate universe, what other FNaF universes could there be? And honestly, I think this should be like an X-Files show. Like, there should be some show about these, because this is gold. Now, please join me while we ponder the question, what if? And at 10, Henry is the purple guy. We all know that in the canon FNaF universe, the individual known as the purple guy is William Afton. However, what if he wasn't? What if everything we knew about the FNaF world was the same, except that Henry Emily was the killer? This would be pretty messed up, considering how his first victim would have been his own daughter instead of his business partner's daughter. And I don't think that you need to be told why that's worse than the original idea. But then again, I need to make sure that this video is long enough so that it doesn't get buried by the algorithm. So yeah, if Henry was the killer, who would be his Henry? I guess maybe William, but we don't know how he'd react. Keep in mind that on this Earth, simply the identity of Purple Guy changes, nothing else. Meaning that William's sadistic killer tendencies and mind would stay the same. So William wouldn't really try and stop Henry, resulting in Henry probably killing for years and years. Which means a Springtrap running around for as long as he can, since he wouldn't really get caught in a fire that would burn away his remnant. Oh god. And at 9, I am the purple guy. What's scarier than Henry being the one who kills his daughter? Me being the one who kills his daughter. Or just the one known as purple guy. Because if I've learned one thing, and one thing only from this series, it's that William is as stupid as they come. Sure, he didn't get officially caught because they had a lack of evidence, but everyone knows that William is to blame for the missing children. Especially since in Sister Location, we see him being interviewed about secret features contained inside the baby animatronic. Like, this man hid his victims in robots that would be on display daily. That's a horrible idea. Yet somehow, when those robots started leaking blood and smelling like dead bodies, the police still never found the bodies. Like, if that was me, Henry wouldn't even know what hit him. Like, there would be no Henry to stop me because they wouldn't think that it was me. Killing people in a place you own? Horrible idea. Look at what it did to the business. Go to your competitors and do it there. That's the real way to get some work done. And at 8, Chica's chicken. What if instead of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, Chica was the star of the show? Firstly, it would result in my mommy getting a little too much attention, and I don't like that. But the place would most likely be called Chica's Chicken. Why is this scary, you ask, when we're just changing the main mascot? Well, Chica's Chicken is actually a real location in Toronto at the corner of Dundas West and Keele. And if Chica's Chicken was actually a FNaF location, I would be screwed. This place actually looks really good though, and I would go there, except my job. And the fact that I talk about FNaF all day makes me kind of want to avoid this place as much as I possibly can, but I don't know. Maybe if I can Uber Eats it, I'll do that. You may not think this is scary, but to me, this is terrifying. And at 7, the butterfly effect. The butterfly effect is a phrase I'm sure you've all heard before. But what it's really talking about is the effects that one action can have on everyone else. Step on a butterfly and it doesn't land on a certain flower. So someone picks that flower up instead of another. That flower then is given to their partner and an allergic reaction happens and they get rushed to the hospital. They die from the reaction and their kids aren't born, but also since they're taking up the room, someone else doesn't get in because the hospital is full, etc. Imagine this in like the FNaF universe and you'll have one of the most horrific experiences of your life. Imagine the last scenario, but the one who doesn't get into the hospital is William and his wife, who for the sake of this experiment had just gotten into an accident with Henry. She doesn't get into the hospital and all of a sudden his first kill isn't to get back at the man who killed his wife, but the hospital who couldn't let them in. And then boom, the entire world changes. That's kind of crazy when you think about it, isn't it? And at 6, Age of Afton. So I think at least most of us know about the MCU, aka the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with movies like Age of Ultron. However, what if the FNaF verse had its own Age of Ultron and instead called it Age of Afton, where instead of Ultron taking over, as he does in the comic storyline at least, we actually see Afton as Springtrap take over. At that point, he was augmented by a robotic endoskeleton, even if it was poking through his flesh, and he was being kept alive by the soul of one of his victims. So honestly, it's not that much of a stretch to assume that he could have taken over the universe. All he really needed was to get Henry out of the picture and we'd all be ripe for the picking. Since Henry was the only one who knew about William and about how you had to burn Remnant in order to kill it off and how he had Remnant in his body. I mean, like, maybe the Winchesters might have burnt him, but this isn't supernatural, okay? I'm trying to be realistic here. The only person and potentially leader of a resistance or something would be Michael, who could learn how to destroy Remnant from Baby or just by understanding it himself since he's kind of using it himself. Halfway through into number 5, 5, our universe. What if FNAF was in our universe? And not like Chica's Chicken, like an actual FNAF restaurant, like straight up Five Nights at Freddy's being in our world. Honestly, technically speaking, it could be. The story of FNAF could be real and we just don't know it. Sure, there haven't been fires at Chuck E. Cheese, but what if there's like an immortal serial killer who someone keeps trying to take down with various fires so that they can't come back? Honestly, at this point, I'd believe it. What if the FNAF story is truly taking place in this world and that's where Scott drew his inspiration? That would be the most horrifying thing. I mean, like, we all thought that the phone guy was Purple Guy for a while, and since Scott voices the phone guy, were we right all along? Oh god, could Five Nights at Freddy's be inspired by actual events? I shudder at the thought. And the thought that they'd probably recruit me to solve the mystery if it is. They'd also recruit matpat and Doggo, so like, they wouldn't be able to deny my existence any longer, so I don't know, maybe there would be an upside. And at 4, supernatural. Get it? What if there was nothing supernatural going on in FNAF, and instead it was just an intense story about a serial killer? That would be terrifying. It's actually ironic that the animatronics getting possessed actually makes this story less scary, since it becomes less realistic at that point. It's like the same concept with crime shows. The idea that this killer could be a real thing is really what makes these shows so unsettling. FNAF isn't like that. It's more of a fantasy. Not because we want it to be real, well, some of us do, based on comments of previous videos. A little too much, actually. But having this just be a series about tracking down a serial killer who was going from pizza joint to pizza joint offing kids would have certainly made for a just as unsettling game, if not more, putting aside the deep-seated issues that the comments section has. Getting close to the end in number 3, Henry was first. One of the ideas that really scares me about FNAF is what if William was just getting away with it forever? And honestly, he actually could have. If he wasn't so much of a little and actually tried to kill someone his own size, he could have gotten rid of the one person who ruined his whole plan, Henry. If William had just offed the only man who knew his true intentions, nobody would have been the wiser, and everything would have ended up in his favor. No fires in FNAF 3 or 6. Nobody to call the cops on you and get you arrested. Especially the whole FNAF 6 thing, because, you know, that's what made you have to let yourself die, since you didn't have the robotic suit keeping you moving. It honestly could have just been a flawless victory if you had just killed Henry instead of his kid, or just both of them. Use a gun. You're in the States. You can get one easily. Just go to Walmart, get one, shoot him, and then store the gun in an animatronic, and then you're good. You can still keep your MO of storing things in animatronic. I mean, like, it might have made you more suspicious, but if they won't arrest you because they couldn't find the kids' bodies, then they won't arrest you based on irony. Motive means an opportunity. And would you really have a motive to kill Henry? I mean, like, maybe you did, but that's a whole other can of worms. Penultimately, in at number 2, 34. Ah, yes, the rules of the internet. One of the most famous ones being Rule 34. The rule that no matter what is online, there will always be some not safe for work or not safe for YouTube version. But what about the universe where the entirety of FNAF is just not safe for work? I mean, we've seen things like it with the Five Nights in Anime game, like big boobed animatronic characters staring flirtatiously at the camera. This kind of thing isn't new. But the universe where that's all that FNAF's purpose was is probably one of the scariest Earths there is. It's not scary at a typical sense, hence why it's only number 2, but hot damn are there a load of possibilities with this kind of thing. Imagine matpat having to make a deep diving lore video about these games if they were just meant to be Rule 34 oriented. That would have been one of the most interesting, comedic, and concerning YouTube videos of all time. Next thing you know, he's gonna start theorizing about the canonicity of Rick and Morty Away Back Home, which actually sounds scarily similar to Spider-Man No Way Home. And finally, in at number 1, it's real. Now I talked about what if FNAF was in our universe, but I never talked about what if the events of the games in full were actually real. Like if the universe we lived in was exactly FNAF. I think I kind of answered this in the what if FNAF was real video, and honestly that kind of terrifies me. But like in the conclusion of that video, I said that William would most likely have been caught. But if the world of FNAF was actually the same as ours, he wouldn't have been caught because he didn't get caught in the game. Which would mean that if the world of FNAF was totally real, we'd all be screwed. Because you know what happens to background characters in horror games, okay? Plus, I think that it's funny that matpat still exists in both realities just thanks to one line from a Fazbear Fright story where someone says like, a game theory, just like his favorite YouTuber, or something along those lines. That's what the line says, something like that. Or at least game theory was real. I like to think that if we all had our own roles in the FNAF universe, that matpat would be like a detective, but I don't know who I'd be. Let me know who you think I'd be in a real FNAF down below. And so help me, if you say purple guy, I will make that real just for you. That's all the time we have for today, friends. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been and shall remain Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video.